Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
We begin tonight in Hornell, where police want to warn you about a scam that already cost one business thousands of dollars. Big Fox's Matt Kleindienst spoke to police about what to watch out for.
Good evening, Ann. According to police, one phone call cost a local business over $2,000. A local business owner tells me these type of scams are becoming more and more common in the area.
Unfortunately, we do get them quite often.
Hornell Police Chief T.J. Murray says it's not uncommon to get calls about scams. This latest one targeted a local business. According to Murray, a local business received a call from someone claiming to be from the Hornell Police Department.
And the person identified themselves as being a police officer and had told the person that they were doing an investigation.
The scammer said the money was needed from the business for an investigation. The business ended up sending $2,000 to the scammers.
Unfortunately, they didn't pick up on it until after they had already sent the money, and they sent it through a money order type process.
Nothing surprises me now because there are so many scams out there.
Brian Martin of the Erie Fine Antique Center says he wasn't stunned to see one of Hornell's businesses hit by a scam. He says his business deals with scam calls multiple times in a given month.
There are multiple phone calls every day trying to scam stuff, electric, fuel, anything that they can think of to get money out of you while you're in business.
Chief Murray says residents and businesses alike should be vigilant for these type of scams.
Very seldom would we ever be out there soliciting people to send money to an out-of-state location. It just won't happen.
Hornell police are working to get federal authorities to assist in the investigation. Matt Kleindienst, Big Fox, WYDC in Hornell.
Governor Hochul signed a bill that will fast-track marijuana growing in the state. The cannabis cultivation bill will allow New York farmers to apply for a conditional grow license for the spring. Governor Hochul says this bill will benefit the state's hemp farmers and jumpstart New York's cannabis industry. The Office of Cannabis Management will develop a license application process and open the program in the coming months. Elmira fire crews are investigating the cause of a Monday night fire along Oak Street. Crews were called over to the house around 6 p.m. after reports of a fire in the second-story kitchen. The building was reportedly empty and had no electricity hooked up. Officials have deemed the fire suspicious and will release more information soon. There are growing concerns about the new BA.2 Omicron subvariant and whether we're in for yet another surge in the coming months. Jonathan Seri has more from Atlanta.
The Omicron surge is fading, but health officials here and overseas are keeping a close eye on an Omicron subvariant. It's called BA.2, and a new study out of Japan shows it's stronger and more transmissible than the original Omicron. The CDC says it's now been reported in at least 30 states and accounts for about 4% of COVID cases in the U.S. But there is also evidence that being fully vaccinated and boosted can keep most people safe if they're infected. The spread of BA.2 comes as the FDA is reportedly considering authorizing a fourth dose of the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. The agency getting some pushback from doctors, citing new studies from American researchers that suggest boosters offer strong protection, and another shot won't be needed for months, if not years.
2 shots plus a booster gives you a big memory of immunity that will work against the virus. We don't need 4th shots here.
Meanwhile, as more states pull back on COVID restrictions, there's an increased focus on protecting children, most of whom are not yet fully vaccinated. But some doctors are also looking ahead to the end of the outbreak, developing strategies to help kids catch up after 2 years of pandemic learning.
Clearly, the masking and the virtual learning, they've had a real impact on, I'm sure, childhood development. And getting that quantitated, I think, is going to be very important.
The CDC says school-age kids account for a little less than 3% of COVID hospitalizations nationwide. In Atlanta, Jonathan Seri, Fox News.
A series of winter storms is making its way across the U.S. this week. The cold conditions are icing over roads and disrupting travel. Robert Ray has more.
Skiers in the Sierra Nevada braved the bitter temperatures Monday night as a cold front brought a fresh layer of snow to the region.
This is about as good a snow as you get.
The winter weather comes after weeks-long drought conditions melted much of the snow on the ground. But it wasn't fun for everyone making their way through the area. The cold, wet conditions iced over roads, disrupting travel as people headed home from the holiday weekend.
Be prepared for the wet and icy roadway conditions. Make sure you have a full tank of gas, and if you can avoid the area, avoid the area.
Further east, a series of winter storms is pummeling the northern plains through the Great Lakes, leaving more than 25 million people under winter storm alerts. Heavy snow began falling Monday, at times coming down 1 inch per hour. In Wisconsin, crews salted major roadways as drifting snow threatened to freeze roads.
Everything's going to be glazed over with about 1/10 of an inch, 1/4 inch ice. It's going to be very, very difficult out there.
The National Weather Service says by the time these storms move out, snowfall amounts could exceed 6 inches from the Dakotas into the upper Great Lakes. More than a foot of snow could fall in isolated areas.
Just dealing with it best we can, taking long breaks, staying out of the weather as much as possible, not getting too cold.
This storm will bring snow and ice to the northeast later this week.
World leaders are condemning the actions of Russian President Vladimir Putin after he ordered troops into 2 pro-Russia regions in eastern Ukraine, which he is now recognizing as independent. President Biden considers the move an invasion. President Biden spoke about the situation from the White House earlier today. Caroline Shively has more details from Washington.
Who in the Lord's name does Putin think gives him the right to declare new so-called countries on territory that belong to his neighbors?
President Biden saying Russia will pay a price for invading Ukraine. His administration is imposing new sanctions targeting Russia financially.
We're implementing comprehensive sanctions on Russia's sovereign debt. That means we've cut off Russia's government from Western financing.
His address coming one day after Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered troops into eastern Ukraine and declared 2 pro-Russia regions there independent. In response, Germany blocked the approval of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which would have given Russia more control of the energy supply into Europe. And the European Union is sanctioning more than 350 Russian lawmakers. Ukrainians are on high alert, and so are NATO nations. The commander-in-chief announcing he's moving U.S. forces in Europe to reassure allies.
These are totally defensive moves on our part. We have no intention of fighting Russia.
Despite the aggression, Ukraine's president says he is still committed to diplomacy.
We are ready to sit at the negotiation table at any platform, and Russia knows it well.
Still ahead tonight, more Americans are turning to food banks as food and gas prices soar amid surging inflation in the U.S.
It's actually a small portion of food that we're purchasing, about 20%. But yet that expense for us has more than tripled in the last 2.5 years.
More on what's causing inflation to surge and what experts say to expect in the coming weeks.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
All right, thanks again for checking in as we take a look at your local forecast. A very wet day across the region, and temperatures, of course, very mild overnight tonight as that rain ends. We're going to wake up to a morning low of 46, and our average overnight low is 18. How about that? Even some near record warm lows, of course, on Wednesday. 6:51 is your sunrise, and then tomorrow our sunset is at 4:51. Should also mention that we're about 2.5 weeks away from our time change. We spring ahead 1 hour, of course, our second weekend of March. Daytime high tomorrow will be occurring early, and then we'll free fall to well below average temperatures here by Thursday. So again, rain continues yet tonight. Really just some isolated, very light showers, and temperatures, of course, will be quite warm. Again, falling temps on Wednesday with more sunshine in the afternoon, and then another system slides in Thursday night and Friday. We could have some plowable snowfall potential across parts of the region here as well. So we're going to watch this, of course, very closely, but the 5-day snowfall forecast suggesting that we will have some snow and maybe a little bit heavier off to the east. But look at this through Wednesday evening. We've had enough rainfall fall and precipitation along with mild temps. That flood watches have been posted for some communities off to the west and also off to the north of us. But overnight tonight, if we have any additional precipitation, it'll be very light, just some isolated showers or areas of drizzle. Again, heading into our Wednesday, a little bit of sunshine into the afternoon before our next storm system moves on in here. Late Thursday, we'll see some snow develop from the south and west. That should continue into your Friday. So tonight, again, quite mild. Light rain should be ending by early tomorrow morning, and then some sunshine into the afternoon hours. But low temperatures tomorrow morning could reach near warm record lows. It's kind of hard to say, but it will be a record for the lowest temperature in terms of how warm it is. And then heading into the day tomorrow, winds will be out of the west to northwest. In fact, gusting up close to 20, maybe even 25 miles per hour. Then as that northwesterly wind develops, temperatures will be free falling down into the 30s late afternoon and around freezing by 6 p.m. tomorrow night. We'll continue to see that temperature fall. So then by Thursday morning, actually down into the teens. Thursday again, we'll have those clouds thickening up with areas of snow developing late Thursday night. And then that snow potential will be sticking around through Friday with, again, some accumulations. How about this into the early part of March? Getting indications that warmer than average temperatures will return. So after a chilly end of the weekend, we will have some warmer weather, but that will be our first full week of March. So Wednesday, of course, any rain that we have will be in the morning. Temperatures free falling. Snow develops Thursday night into Friday, and this upcoming weekend will be quieter with more sunshine on Saturday.
Whether it's at the pump or in the grocery aisles, prices are soaring and Americans are feeling it in their wallets. Kevin Cork has more from Washington on what's causing inflation to surge.
Gas prices continue to creep upward, and officials warn that the conflict between Ukraine and Russia could cause even more pain at the pumps. The average price for a gallon of gasoline now as high as $3.67 in some states, and that's actually 17 cents more per gallon than just a month ago, and $1 more than this time last year. Some Senate Democrats are considering a gas tax holiday, saying suspending the federal gas tax would save drivers more than 18 cents a gallon. But gas prices aren't the only issue plaguing Americans. The price of food is also on the rise.
We try and figure out ways to make things stretch more. Like, can you add pasta to it or potatoes, things that are cheaper and fill the kids up faster?
More Americans say they're turning to food banks amid the surging inflation. U.S. consumer prices continue to rise as well. In fact, they've done so at the fastest annual pace in almost 40 years. That according to data from the U.S. Department of Labor. Food banks have come to the rescue for thousands of Americans throughout the pandemic, and it seems demand won't be letting up anytime soon. Food bank officials say they will continue to help families, but even they are feeling the strain of rising prices.
So it's actually a small portion of food that we're purchasing, about 20%. But yet that expense for us has more than tripled in the last 2.5 years.
Prices for goods and services around the country are also rising, and experts say that could continue to surge in the coming weeks. That is certainly not very good news. In Washington, I'm Kevin Cork.
About 1 in 4 Americans are reducing necessities in food or medicine in order to pay their energy bills. That's according to an analysis of recent census data by helpadvisor.com. 16% of Americans kept their homes at unsafe temperatures to keep their bills low, and 1 in 6 were unable to pay their full energy bills at least once last year. People in Arkansas and New Mexico forwent food and medication so they could pay an energy bill. That's the most compared with other states. California and New York had the highest back payments in utilities. You might have noticed your daily cup of Joe is getting more expensive. In fact, roasted coffee spiked more than 9% last year, and that is having an effect on both consumers and businesses where coffee is sold. Jake Karolexis has more from Redmond, Washington.
From someone who drinks 2 cups almost every day, it's concerning. Customers are starting to notice the change, and coffee roasters are in a tough spot. How can they keep up with these rising prices without moving the cost to customers?
Everybody's basically taking a hit.
Your next cup of coffee is gonna cost you.
We're not making any money on the drip coffees anymore because the cost of coffee has gone up so much.
Roasted coffee prices haven't spiked this much since 2012. Andrea Parrish owns Victor's Celtic Coffee. She's already trying to manage the rising costs.
We've increased prices 6% over the last 2 weeks.
Frank Curtis and his wife come to Victor's once a week. He says they've noticed their coffee is more expensive.
If it keeps going at some kind of rate like this, eventually it would have to factor in for us.
With costs going up, people are making their own coffee to save money.
They're buying a really nice machine and buying a really good roasted coffee and brewing it home.
Customers aren't the only ones feeling the heat. Coffee is getting more expensive for roasters like Philip Meach.
With where prices are going right now, our monthly average of costs might go up $6,000 to $8,000.
Roasters are trying hard not to pass costs to customers. Victor's is changing things up to bring in more revenue.
Merchandising, Uber Eats, Uber to Go, the local art shows, having live music, attracting more customers in different ways.
With coffee prices going up, retail coffee sales in the U.S. decreased last year for the first time in at least 4 years. In Redmond, Washington, Jake Karalexis.
If you're past the Super Bowl and Valentine's Day bad eating, it's time to return to good eating for your heart. Experts say food is, in a way, medicine. So take care of your heart during National Heart Month in your eating. Red meats and processed meats taste great, but have salts, preservatives, and saturated fats. Fried foods like French fries, fried chicken, and foods with added salt are high in sodium. Sugary drinks can affect cardiac disease and stroke, and diet drinks affect your metabolism. Pastas and breads are okay occasionally, but refined grains can impact your blood pressure and put you at risk for heart disease. Is one of your best kitchen cleaning items like a laboratory breeding ground item? A new study says yes. A new Duke University study has the down and dirty on your kitchen sponges. Duke researchers say your average kitchen sponge has more bacteria than a lab petri dish. Duke scientists say sponge microbial species allow for a diverse community of bacteria to thrive. 80 different E. coli strains were tracked on several growth plates. The scientists say structural environments with large spaces like sponges have could help microbes thrive. Yuck. Okay, if you're thinking you've heard this before, it's because you have, but this time it's not out of Arizona. It's a new batch of botched baptisms out of Michigan. Jackie Ibanez has more.
Hundreds of Catholics in Michigan may have to get baptized again after a deacon used the wrong word during baptisms. This comes on the heels of another baptism debacle out of Arizona, where thousands of Catholics made headlines after learning they were improperly baptized. In both of these instances, the priests said, "We baptize," instead of "I baptize."
The argument is that because the wrong words were said, that thing didn't happen, right? The ritual didn't do the work it was meant to do.
The Archdiocese of Detroit says 71 people so far have been baptized again, but more than 400 people have yet to respond, despite their outreach efforts. One of the people affected was a Detroit priest, Reverend Matthew Hood. His dad went through old family items and showed a video of when the Reverend was baptized using the wrong terminology.
The deacon said, "We baptize." He didn't say, "I baptize." And I know, being a priest, that's not what's in the right, at least.
After realizing what happened, Reverend Hood says he got baptized and ordained as a priest again. But the consequences for the Detroit Reverend went beyond his own baptism and priestly ordination. He officiated roughly 30 marriages, and now those couples will have to say their I do's all over again. So far, Hood says the couples have been understanding.
I was expecting them to be angry, upset, confused, and their reaction was, "Father Matt, we feel so bad for you."
Church officials say they will continue to reach out to those affected in hopes of making things right.
Some great news for the recovering airline industry. TSA data shows the number of people screened at airports last week reached their highest level since Thanksgiving of 2021. As COVID restrictions both nationally and internationally begin to ease, more than 2.2 million people went through security clearance Friday, with more than 3.5 million combined passengers screened on both Saturday and Sunday. This comes as countries across the world begin to open their borders and more restrictions set to fall in March. We want to leave you with a smile. Today is National Margarita Day, and in celebration, Cuervo Tequila is giving away 22,222 limes for your drink, as today is 2/22/2022. But the brand is adding a chance for a lucky winner to get a golden lime with a grand prize. That is a trip for two to visit La Rojena, Latin America's oldest distillery, followed by a weekend beach vacation in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. Those interested can visit cuervolimes.com to sign up for a chance to win. Good luck. And from our whole team, thank you for joining us. We hope you have a good rest of your day.